The Las Vegas Raiders are playing with fire right now, and it is well known that Roger Goodell and the NFL Commissioner's Office in general absolutely hate the Raiders, and what they are doing could cost them a first-round draft pick this year. Let me explain. So as we all know by now, you had two of the best players benched for the rest of the year, put on IR in Brock Bowers, the best tight end in football, and then you also had Jeremy Chinn, who was one of our best defensive players, put on IR for the rest of the year, which was suspicious in and of itself because you just had these guys playing and they seemed fine. But now you're saying that their knee injuries are too worrisome, and so we better just, safeguard their safety and not let them play the final two games of the year. The Raiders currently right now have the second overall draft pick, and we're about to play the guys who have the number one overall draft pick in the New York Giants. So that is one thing that is suspicious, but it would be hard to prove. Then you go and you put your best player on your entire team, a guy who has been balling out week after week after week, in Maxx Crosby, on the bench for the rest of the year as well, just a couple of days away from the game. Maxx Crosby was not happy about this, and he stormed out of the building. Now, this could, in the long term, sour Maxx Crosby on the Raiders, and Maxx Crosby was just in a locker room interview where he was asked about the number one overall draft pick so that the Raiders could go out and get their franchise quarterback, and he said, point blank, I don't give a damn about a first-round draft pick. I'm trying to be the best defensive end in football. All that other stuff has nothing to do with me, and I don't care about it. Well, here's the thing. Max, you, for one, should stop crying then about the Raiders never winning games if you're not willing to make a small little sacrifice in two meaningless games and just sit out or not play hard all the way through so that the Raiders could get it. Now listen, that is strictly against the NFL rules, and if it does come out that the Raiders are intentionally tanking, it could cost them their draft pick. But with that being said, it is extraordinarily difficult to prove that a team is intentionally tanking rather than safeguarding their key players and not allowing them to go out there and injure themselves in meaningless games like you have right now. Now, you could also argue, on the other hand, that the Giants game is not meaningless at all. It is the most important game for the Raiders as well as the Giants, because whoever loses that game is pretty much going to almost guarantee that they will have the number one overall draft pick. Now, for the Giants, they have Jackson Dart, and they would be absolutely foolish to go and draft another quarterback when Jackson Dart has actually played very well this year, despite the fact that the Giants have only won 2 games. That being said, the Giants are also embracing the tankathon because they have also benched for the rest of the year several of their key players who had minor injuries in order to protect them. But why would the Giants want to do this? Well, because they already have their quarterback, and so getting the number one overall draft pick means that they could trade back to pick 8, 9, 10 and get a haul for that number one. Therefore, they would be able to build around their franchise quarterback in Jackson Dart. That would be the smart thing for them to do. But if they're stuck at pick number 2 or number 3, they're not going to get the haul that they would for number 1. Because the only reason somebody would trade up that high is because they want to get Fernando Mendoza. With all of that being said, let's get back to the Raiders. The Raiders have benched 3 key players on their team, pretty much trying to ensure that they lose this coming game. But to do that, you have to have the head coach sign off on it. This is not something that the GM or even the owner can just enforce. This is up to Pete Carroll. And Pete Carroll made the decision to bench them. And Pete Carroll, therefore, is either doing one of 2 things. Either he's been told, do what you need to do to make sure that we get Mendoza, and your job is secure. You're not going anywhere next year. Because all of the rumors that Pete Carroll will be out at the end of the season are just that. They're rumors. There is no confirmed reports whatsoever that the Raiders have any intentions whatsoever of parting ways with a future Hall of Fame coach. So until there is some concrete information, you have to assume that he's going to at least fulfill 2/3 of his contract at 2 of the 3 years. And this could mean that the Raiders have given him confidence that, hey, we need our franchise quarterback. This guy that you brought with you, Geno Smith, he's not it. He is not it. get Fernando Mendoza, and you are good to go to mentor. Now, we also have to bring in the fact that a lot of people have been saying that we want Klint Kubiak as head coach. But Klint Kubiak has signaled that he's not ready to come out and that he wants to stay another year as an offensive coordinator, which makes sense. Ben Johnson did the same thing. Many other head coaches have done the same thing. They're going to come out because they're the hottest ticket on the market. They're going to come out when they feel like they're ready to take on that head coaching situation, because they need to make sure that they are going to a program that has the talent in order for them to win right away. Because if you don't, you could be fired by the end of the season, which the Raiders do quite often over the past 30 years, and you're out of a job now. So it's better for you to stay in. Make sure that when you're ready to come out as a head coach, that you're going to a team that is ready to win now. And that would make sense. You keep Pete Carroll for another year. That gives Klint Kubiak a year to look at that team and say, are the Raiders a team that I can go and coach, and they are already pre-built, ready for me to take over? And if you have your franchise quarterback and you've done what you need to do on the offensive line to solidify that, and you've done some help in the back end of the defense, which needs a lot of help, now you're in a team that is a potential playoff team. They might not be playoff team year one due to the fact that Mendoza would be a rookie and there's still a lot of holes that the Raiders need to plug, but they've got all the foundation and the building blocks for a guy like Klint Kubiak to bring his offense over with him and take over and hopefully have a success story like Ben Johnson is having in Chicago. The Raiders have to embrace the tank, and here is the crux of the matter. You have to do it in a way that you do not make it so blatant that the NFL could violate you for breaking the rules of intentionally going after that number one overall draft pick, which is against the rules, and it could cost you that draft pick and more to come. But at the same time, you have to ensure that you get it. The Raiders have not had a franchise quarterback since Derek Carr, and Derek Carr was mediocre pretty much every single year except for one. That's it. 2016, best year, MVP year, breaks his leg. He was never the same since. He was decent. I'm never going to say Derek Carr was a bad quarterback, but Derek Carr was never a Tom Brady, a Patrick Mahomes, a Ben Roethlisberger. He was never any of those. And the Raiders haven't had that guy that can take over a game and get you victories when it counts. And that's what you need in a star franchise quarterback. And I think that the Raiders are going to be able to get that with Mendoza. 6'5", 225. I've talked a lot about him on this channel, and I'm telling you right now, he reminds me of a Ben Roethlisberger when it comes to the arm strength and the size, and he reminds me of a Josh Allen when it comes to the athleticism, because nobody's talking about the fact that Fernando Mendoza is actually a phenomenal athlete for his size. He's not Jaden Daniels blazing fast, but this dude is deceptively quick when he gets those wheels turning, and he can get out of some sacks. He can make some things happen. He can extend the plays, and that's what you need. But most importantly, he is probably the best pre-snap, post-snap quarterback to come out of college in a decade or more.